What do the people that are most productive do to start going into the next level of the productivity? We are going to talk today about this kind of experience that you can awaken within your brain and start gaining a lot of traction in terms of whatever it is that is your business. So, what if you could just shut down the part of your brain that creates self doubt and distraction and replace it with the cocktail of neurochemicals that are 5 times more potent than the best drug? This isn't science fiction, it's the flow state and the flow science. So, we are going to talk about this, how to achieve peak performance, and the protocol that I'm going to give you at the end of this episode for flow mastery. So, most people try to work harder, but top performers really work in a different way by triggering this biological switch that it is called transient hypofrontality. And if you aren't using this flow protocol that awakens this part and this transition of the brain, you are leaving 500%, you listen correct, 500% of your potential on the table, and that's why you are left behind. So in this episode, if you stay until the end, you will discover the inner critic switch, how do you turn off this voice. During flow, your prefrontal cortex will deactivate and enabling effortless control and eliminating this self-consciousness that is just creating these cycles of doubts and rumination. This is called the transient hypofrontality. You switch off this critic. Now, we will also talk about this 500% productivity dividend that you can gain from activating this transition. Executives in many of the top companies that are managing this flow system are 500% more productive, and they accomplish in 2 hours what others do in a full work day. So it is not a matter of how much you work or how long you stay in the office. It is more about how more productive you can be and start balancing the multiple activities that you have in your life. And we are going to talk about, of course, that about the danger of struggle and the phases that you can transition during this experience of the protocol of flow. So most people quit during the struggle phase, and that's why they don't progress and they don't enter into this flow cycle. And that prevents them from reaching the peak performance that they are looking for. So that's why we're going to talk about these strategies today. And if you want to know the protocol to ignite this full power of your brain, please stay until the end and enjoy, of course, this session because it's going to be really, really amazing. So let's go with the first topic and this neurochemical struggle to flow and to enter this infinite loop. And that's why I love this image that represents the infinite loop that you can create. So phase one, let's start to decodify this flow cycle that starts with struggle. And this is a high frequency beta waves that you are turning in your brain, and it is loading cortisol and norepinephrine, those two hormones and neurotransmitters as well. They are going to allow you to stay when you are having this resistance and start creating a cognitive load. This is the phase where you charge your system with the information, the complexity, and all of those things. So be persistent so that you can pass to the phase two, which is release. This is the diffuse mode of processing. This is where you take a little break or a little walk, or you perform a short meditation of 3 or 5 minutes, and you start creating the default mode network. You start engaging this default mode network, or DMN, and you allow the information to start giving you ideas, cycling in your head, and start giving you the reflections that you need in order to progress and identify the solutions in anything that you are working on. And phase 3, you enter into the flow. And this is where the waves in your brain start changing. And instead of being beta waves, you are going to start producing alpha and theta waves that they are going to cross over and they are going to interchange. What is the chemical signature of this flow system? Well, it's norepinephrine, dopamine, and then anandamide. And those three beautiful neurotransmitters and this chemical language is the one that is going to give you the, let's say, the top level in productivity that you are wanting for. And instead of requiring 4 hours to perform a task, you will do it in probably 1.5 hours. So what is happening in terms of these intuitive signals and this processing from top to down and down to top that is interchanging the frequency of your heart? Your heart is creating an intuitive signal that has been measured by the HeartMath Institute, and it is zero point 0.1 hertz. And this is the physiological coherence that synchronizes the heart and the brain. And you create this beautiful wave pattern that is the global coherence. And that's when you also connect with this known source and you start pulling information that sometimes it completely detaches you from time and it connects you with this realm of ideas of the collective consciousness. And this is allowing the heart to sense the optimal move 5 seconds before the brain computes. So it is listening your intuitive signals. And instead of staying in this chaotic rhythm, which is stress and cortisol dominance, you start flowing. And this is the hypofrontality that you are creating with this global coherence with zero point 0.1 hertz, that it is achieved by roughly 6 breaths per minute and optimizes your heartbeat in the oscillatory potential. This is the HOP. This is the frequency that you are going to gain by creating these breaths per minute. And you achieve it in 4.7 seconds. This is the significant heart rate deceleration that occurs prior to your emotional stimuli. What does this mean? This means that before you have any emotion that has been triggered from a negative thought or these loops that you enter when you are in the other chaotic rhythm, you detach and you create a shield from this erratic incoherence, and you enter into this channel and frequency by just like synchronizing a radio station. You enter into the radio station where you enter into the source and the flow of information, and you can resolve pretty much anything that you want. So this is the strategy that you are going to use to enter the flow. Now, what happens with this 4% rule, which is the flow channel? And this is like if I am giving you the right number of frequency where you can start performing these kind of tasks. The Goldilocks zone is found when the challenge is 4% beyond your current mastery level. So you need to increase the complexity of things by 4% in any task that you are performing so that you can gain this struggle and create the cognitive load and then release the information, start entering into this DMN activation, trying to do a short walk, trying to do a short meditation or breathing exercises, and this will start triggering the flow that you will going to enter after that. And this triggers the the flow also of cortisol and starts releasing the cortisol, causing that the anxiety starts dissolving. So this is the perfect way of having, let's say, a healthy anxiety. And this is the excitement of doing or performing a task. This is the emotion that you are showing when you are doing what you love. And also, it could be writing, it could be solving problems, it could be programming, it could be whatever it is that you do in your job, but you show it in your face, you show it in your body, and all of the chemical language that is inside of you is showing this arousal that was obtained by raising the difficulty of the tasks 4% and acquiring more skills. So the action, if the task, for example, is too challenging and you start having these feelings of frustration and feeling that you are entering into this apathy, that's when you can chunk down the task and divide it into small pieces so that you can start moving beyond this frustration and apathy and entering again into the flow system and creating this positive anxiety, because there are two types of anxiety. The one that is going to make you quit the task and feel that you don't have enough skills to perform it. And the other one that is going to allow you to surpass and overcome the obstacles that you are encountering in this channel of flow, because you will have to pass those obstacles and entering into this loop, infinite loop that we spoke at the beginning, of releasing the beautiful chemicals that are going to give you the level of focus and momentum that you want. And also, you are going to start surpassing the boredom or the apathy when the task is too simple. So when anything that we are doing is really simple and we don't find a challenge, we really start developing this boredom and apathy, and we don't feel that we are value, of course. We don't feel that we are growing, and that leads us to have this distraction mode. We start consuming the instantaneous reward, and we create the toxic anxiety that is going to create the addiction into those systems, which can be the screens, which can be sedentarism, which can be any kind of consumption of toxicity, news, food that is toxic, etc. So, next, what is going to happen? We have literally a digital erosion of the brain, and in particular the frontopolar cortex. Smartphones physically weaken this frontopolar cortex, destroying your endogenous ability to subtle focus and trapping you in stimulus response loops. This is what is going to hijack you in the toxic anxiety. So by entering into this mode of distraction and entering into this survival mode, what you are doing is that you are diminishing this frontopolar cortex, and fMRI studies correlate this smartphone addiction with significantly lower frontopolar cortex activation. And this is minus 8 seconds that modern attention spans have dropped below that of a goldfish. So this is just extremely dangerous, because people don't have attention for, let's say, 3 seconds. That's why one of the markers in the YouTube algorithms is 3 seconds. If people can stay 3 seconds and listen to what you are going to say, but 3 seconds is like 2 words or something like that. So people don't have attention for anything almost. And the more they consume these short content videos, the more they get addicted. So this, what it's doing is breaking the ability to survive the flow loading phase, because you don't have this capacity to withstand the struggle, and you easily become bored, and you go into the next distraction, and you enter into a loop that is completely toxic. So you will have very quickly cognitive fatigue. And this is the constant high volume stimuli that depletes the executive control of your resources. You feel that you don't have enough willpower, and it is not that. What is happening is that you are becoming intoxicated by this consumption, this mindless consumption of this stimuli that is designed to trap you into these loops and create the anxiety. And then, of course, you are going to have these crashes that they are going to become higher and higher. And suddenly you are going to enter into the depressive state. So, what can we do? Let's explain how these waves in the brain work and how we can start entering into the ones that we want. There is the alpha theta bridge that is going to allow us where this self, this internal soul, this internal connection with the source becomes action. Flow mimics the ego of the dissolution of the ego and the spiritual states by collapsing these alpha waves that maintain the I narrative. And then you detach from the ego, and that's when you enter into these states where you feel that time is not passing by, and that you are immersed in the activity that you are doing. You are enjoying it so much, and you are downloading and receiving so much information that you are able to process everything and to be inspired by what you are doing. You are creating art in whatever expression you are performing. So this is action and awareness that works seamlessly, and they merge into one beautiful gamma burst that is 30 to 100 hertz. So this is the most high level wave that you can achieve. This is the peak insight, and the people that really have this, that master this flow protocol, and that practice and practice and practice, like the monks, for example, that meditate for a long time, and they keep practicing, they achieve these states every day. So we can also do it by practicing and practicing more, and sustaining this attention, and forcing ourselves to start consuming things that inspire us, that is going to challenge us, and that we can sustain the attention and understand the message that people, whatever it is, the content that you are consuming, is trying to convey to you. So this is the merging of awareness and action. When you are in these erratic sequences, you are in the beta mode of thinking. This is the struggle phase, and this is the high frequency execution. This state is where most of the people live by. But this, if you keep doing that beta wave flow in your brain, what you are going to create is just this highly active activity, and you are going to overwhelm your brain, and you enter into this toxic anxiety, and you enter in the survival mode. When you start switching this frequency of your brain into this alpha state, and you have these periods of relaxation and these short breaks, you go into these alpha waves, which are 8 to 13 hertz. These are relaxed but alert states. The ego begins to dissolve, and this is where you are approaching the gamma burst that is going to give you what you want. So by entering into this gamma burst, you will have this capacity of getting into the 30 to 100 hertz, and you create this peak insight and merge your awareness of what are you doing into the action, and you are also receiving and downloading a lot of information that sometimes when you read it after, you don't even know how you could be so inspired, and you don't even recognize that this is your voice speaking, but this is the source. This is the collective wisdom entering into your system. And then you also have these waves that are also the deep subconscious access, which are called the theta waves, and they are in the frequency of 4 to 7 hertz. So when we enter in this theta frequency is when we get into this subtle sleep, when we have these breakthroughs and realization of things that we discover about ourselves, and we also get these sparks of inspiration that are gaining this traction and this information from your deep subconscious access. So what else is going to happen when we switch and we start practicing and practicing more, switching these states of beta brain waves, alpha brain waves, gamma burst, and theta waves? Well, when we have this capacity of switching, we also enter into a different kind of language, and we produce a neurochemical cocktail that is the signature of peak performance. We release dopamine that enhances the pattern recognition and reward processing, but in a healthy way. It drives the brain's baseline creativity. You have this motivation, you have this positive anxiety because you are excited about the things, and you have task engagement. Then you release at the same time in this process norepinephrine in this struggle phase that we spoke about. And it narrows your focus to rapidly spike the physiological arousal and anchors sustained attention to keep the mind locked onto the challenge. And then you enter into this sort of competition with yourself so that you can prove that you can go further and further and start enjoying more and more the things that you are doing. Now, endorphins. Endorphins are natural opioids that mask physical and mental pain. So these are your, let's say, anesthetic for pain. And they build extreme resilience needed to work through the fatigue. This is when you enter into these flow states and you don't want to stop because you are having so much inspiration that you want to finish and start downloading more and more information. But if you practice these states, you don't need to stay there for 3, 4, or 5 hours. You can have chunks of flow states where you really can have this balance also in your life. And then at the end, you release anandamide. And this is the bliss molecule. This is the molecule that, let's say, tells you or shows you that you are in the right frequency where you are going to have this gamma burst. And this fuels the lateral problem solving, connecting these parity ideas. This parity means that you are having ideas that are not uh, like the traditional ones. You have these breakthroughs, you have these amazing skills that are accessing inspirational state where you connect yourself, your soul, your heart into this system, and you create the coherence of heart and brain. And it significantly reduces the fear response. Instead of activating this fear response, what anandamide is doing is creating the confidence response. You raise your self-esteem, you raise your confidence in acquiring new skills, and you raise the level of complexity that you can handle. And this is the biological superfuel. This is just like the potion that you need to enter into the flow protocol that I'm going to speak about next. And this is the specific neurochemical blend that triggers the transient hypofrontality, which is a temporary silencing of the prefrontal cortex that shuts down the inner critic, the one that is bothering you about the confidence, about that this imposter syndrome, and all of these doubts that you can have. You shut it down because you are entering with the anandamide release into this confidence loop. And together, all of these neurotransmitters create the super fuel that dramatically increases the pattern recognition, the lateral thinking, and allows you to be creative and to have these breakthroughs that are almost impossible in a normal state of consciousness. That's why you have to persist and be disciplined and practice more. Probably this is not going to work in the beginning when you are trying to do things, but if you stay with this kind of protocol and this kind of formula, at least for a week, practicing every day, trying to enter into this flow state without pressure, just allowing this 4% of complexity, raising the level of your skills, believe me that by the end of the week, you are going to feel more confident instead of fearful or frustrated. And you are going to have a lot more attention in what you are doing in your life. Now, what is the secret? This is the flow mastery protocol. Flow is not accidental. It is not something that someone discovered just by playing uh, mindless dopamine releasing things. This is success that is engineered by matching your workflow to the brain's natural chronobiological rhythm. So, this is nature and creating this connection with your soul, with yourself, and creating these steps of first coherence, reset. This is just 5 minutes, creating these 5-second inhale and exhale exercises that will allow you to anchor your nervous system into this zero point 0.1 hertz frequency that is going to be the resonant frequency to create the beautiful waves that you need to start releasing the cocktail of chemicals. Next, step 2, the focus fortress. This is 90 minutes, blocks of 90 minutes. This is the ultradian work block that matches the natural energy peaks. Zero digital notifications, block everything. There are a lot of tools now that you can use so that you can tell your phone to do not transfer notifications for 90 minutes. And then that will protect the frontal prefrontal cortex, and that it's going to target and raise the level of the 4% challenge. This is going to allow you to enter and to surpass and overcome this 4% challenge. Step 3, the release. Next, once you do this struggle, once you do this phase of a lot of concentration and focus, you have a walk, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is that you start adapting yourself. And this is low stakes, screen free, screen free. This is not time to be scrolling because that's just going to start raising the toxic dopamine or the cheap dopamine, and you are going to start creating the anxiety that is toxic for you. So, screen-free physical movement to trigger the diffuse mode of the neurochemical release. This is like once you do the struggle phase, once you do the loading phase with the information and all the things that you require to enter into the flow, you decompress. and you allow the system to float your brain, float your body, float your heart with the substances that you need to create the coherence in the next chunk or block of time. And that's the protocol that you are going to repeat over and over. And in 2 or 3 blocks of time of 90 minutes, you will achieve what people take 8 hours to do in one day. And you will do it even better than any of them. So this is the science of peak performance. This is how you create these protocols so that your brain starts giving you what you want and giving you what they need, what all of these synaptic connections and the neural plasticity that you require to create highways that are going to be very easy to cross over and to start activating this transient hypofrontality. So if you like this episode, as always, I just ask you that you give me a comment, a question, a suggestion of another topic, or a suggestion of a guest that I can have in my podcast. And also, I encourage you to give me a feedback of what you think about this information. And of course, if you subscribe in any of the other audio platforms, give me these evaluations and assessments so that the algorithm starts helping me to transmit this information to more people. Thank you very much for your attention. And of course, check out any of my links, mainly my website, so that you can discover courses and mastermind programs that I have. Thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful day, and we will listen to each other on the next episode. Bye.